Going live, I'm in. Let's see how the internet treats me this time around. Hello. Today I'm hiding my face, eh? Guys, please confirm quickly. Please confirm that you can hear me without problems so that we can start already. Please confirm you can hear me without problems. Yo, I've been struggling these past few days. The internet has not been friendly with me. I've hidden my face. Let me see if I can show my face. I don't know how to turn this thing around. I've been struggling, eh? The internet has been quite bad. Please confirm that it's good. You can hear me without issues. Yeah. Hey, guys. It's tough out there. It's tough, man. Every other video that I come across, I see children speaking English. They don't know how to speak their mother tongue. It is sad. It is a sad state of affairs. Children are unable to speak the languages of their parents. I cannot get my head wrapped around this. It is embarrassing, to say the least. It is embarrassing. It's absolutely discombobulating. Hi, guys. Why are children now speaking English in 2025? I mean, the English Empire is gone, and somehow our people are stuck in the 1800s. Thank you, everybody. Our people are stuck in the 1800s. I cannot believe it. You guys, I want to say, whenever there's a problem with the network, you just let me know. Ne? I cannot believe it. So, everything around us is in English. Ne? I agree. I remember this one time there was an issue with some people who are asking, why do we have to write exams in English or Afrikaans here in South Africa? Why do we have to write exams in English or Afrikaans, you know? English is not my first language. Afrikaans is not my first language. But somehow I'm forced to write exams in these languages. And then one of the answers was, oh no, these African languages are not developed enough. These African languages are not advanced. Hey guys, come on, man. Come on. Afrikaans was celebrating its 100th year this year. But you can write your exams from grade 1 to grade 12 in Afrikaans. You can do your dissertation in Afrikaans. But Afrikaans is less than 100 years old. But you're going to tell me that my language is not developed enough when my language has been around for thousands of years. So that is not an argument at all. That, oh no, our languages are not developed enough. We don't have scientific words for things in our languages. That's the most lazy explanation. That's the laziest explanation ever. Because we can do some examples. We can go to subjects like mathematics, you know. All you need to do is to understand the fundamental concepts of these subjects. For example, in mathematics, there's an aspect of maths called geometry. And what geometry is, literally means the measurement of the earth. The measurement of the earth. Geo is the earth. Metri, from the word meter, is to measure. So when you say geometry, you're saying the measurement of the earth. How can you tell me that your language that has been around for thousands of years doesn't have words for these things? You cannot tell me that our language does not have a word that means to measure and a word that means earth. Come on, guys. So geometry, the subject that has, it's literally words that we use every day. Geo, umhlaba, the earth, ilizwe. Metri, to measure, ukulinganisa. Ukulinganisa, to measure something. So geometry is ukugoqa umhlaba or ingoqa umhlaba, the measurement of the earth. That's what it is. It has nothing to do, oh, your languages are not advanced. That's complete bollocks. So I was looking at mathematics for as an example. I was looking at mathematics, and I came I started to look at things like Euclidean geometry, some of the fundamental bases, some of the fundamental points of mathematics. We talk about things like points, we talk about plane, distance, we talk about angles, surface and curve. Come on, guys. You cannot tell me that our languages, as old as they are, do not have words, indigenous native words, for things like line, a line, and a curve, and a corner. Because that's what these scientific subjects are based on. Fundamental principles like that. Simple things. Simple things. For example, when I was young in school, we were taught about triangles. In isiXhosa, they told us that a triangle is nqantathu. Nqantathu. Ntathu means third. Means third. It comes from the word three. Tatu. So nqantathu literally means three sides. It means three sides. Thank you. Nqantathu means three sides, but nqantathu does not translate to triangle, because triangle is an angle and a side are two different things. Thank you. An angle and a side are two different things. So even the people who attempted to translate some of these aspects of science into our languages were lazy. Nqantathu, it's literally golonqantathu. Golonqa is an angle, it's a corner, a recess. Igolonqa is an angle, a corner, a recess. Or some people would say imbombo, ubombo, something with sharp edges, sharp angles, like the mountains, libombo, the mountain full of angles, the mountain that is like a boundary. Because angles form in boundaries. When two lines intersect, angles form there. So even the Libombo Mountains, the name comes from an original idea of angles. So even mathematical fundamental concepts like angles and lines and points and planes and distances, these are literally based in our language. A triangle, simple as that, ugolonqantathu, or shortened to nqantathu, the three-angled. Now, if we take it further, lines. Exactly, if you look at the praises of some of the Dlamini people, the ones who conquered the Libombo Mountains through large strides. They went down the mountains and up the mountains with huge strides, walking big distances. So Libombo Mountain, the word Libombo as meaning a boundary, but also the sharp-angled boundary, because Ubombo is also an angle. So you cannot tell me that we don't have words for things like angles and lines and points. You can translate maths so easily. Why do you think in Afrikaans a child can learn Afrikaans from grade 1 to grade 12 all the way through matric without ever needing to learn things in English? This just boggles my mind, because today kids are sent to schools that speak any language but theirs. And you wonder why these children don't have any sense of pride. They absolutely have no pride in who they are. They can be told at any point in time by an Afrikaans or an English-speaking child that you guys don't have civilization. You guys have no civilization. Your people have never built or created civilization. And that child will never be able to argue against that because they have absolutely no clue. In maths, we talk about fundamental concepts. What is a concept to begin with? And what does it mean to be fundamental? A concept is something that is conceptualized, something that is formed in the mind, and therefore an idea. Ingamango, munakano, munano. When you think you are formulating an idea, you are conceptualizing. So when you talk about fundamental, a fundament is literally the basis of something. A fundament is the basis. For example, the fundament of a human being are the bums. Because it's the bums that you sit with. So when you base yourself down, you use the bums, the buttocks. That's your fundament. It's a physical idea. It's a practical idea when you talk about these things. When you have a basket, the fundament of the basket is sisibunu umnqundu wayo ingobozi. The word mnqundu means fundament, the back, the basis, what fixates it to the ground. So a fundament is isiseko, because ukuseka is to fixate something. And therefore, when you talk about fundamental concepts, it's ingamango ezisiseko. Hey. That's fundamental concepts. It doesn't need to get any more complicated than that. Someone says we have a Sotho mathematics dictionary by Dr. Zuluma Tambo Zulu. May he rest in peace. I know his work. I know his work. That's amazing work, actually. Dr. Zuluma Tambo Zulu has done some really amazing work. It's important because our children keep on failing science. They fail mathematics, which is also a type of science, by the way. They don't know how to conceptualize these ideas because they have no clue what an angle is. They literally have no clue. When you talk about angle, what are you referring to? They just see drawings and things. An angle is literally a space between two intersecting lines. When those two intersecting lines come together, there's a space in between them. We conceptualize that space through degrees. And there's a reason why degrees are multiples of 30. There's a reason why degrees go all the way to 360. It comes from ancient counting systems. But we need to be able to translate these things in our languages. And I'm only talking about mathematics. I'm going to go to science and other types of science. So when we talk about angles, children need to know that we talk about ubombo. We talk about igolonga. That's it. When we talk about lines, we talk about umqa, a series of points connected together. A series of points that are connected together is a line, umqa. And this is one of the fundamental concepts in mathematics because shapes are lines or series of points. No, absolutely, mathematics is a science. It's a science. It is a science of structure, order, and relation that has evolved through elemental practices of counting, measuring, and describing the shapes of objects. That's mathematics. It's a science. We study quality, structure, space, and change in maths. That's what it is. I mean, even economics is a science, but it's a social science, though. It's not a natural science. So it is very important for us to be able to break these things down. And you understand, a lot of so-called black kids are very uncomfortable with things like maths and science and all that. They'd rather go and learn useless history in school because it's not even their history that they are being told about. They are being bombarded with European history that has nothing to do with us, doesn't add any value to our lives, leaves us in worse state than it found us. They must learn about maths. When we talk about umga, a line, series of points connected together, and a point, uphawu, inqaku. Inqaku or uphawu is a fixated point in time. A fixated point in time. These are the bases. And when you take 2 points and link them together, you form a line. When you take 2 lines and link them together, you have an angle. When you enclose those lines, you already have a shape. You can have a 3-sided shape with 3 internal angles and 3 external angles called a triangle, or you can have a 4-sided shape with lines that intersect at 90 degrees to each other on all sides, and you have a square. Or you can have a 4-sided shape with 2 parallel sides, each intersecting at 90 degrees each other, with 2 having equal length and 2 having equal breadth. You have a rectangle, etc., etc., etc. So when I was young, I was told that a triangle is unqantathu. But I'm correcting that today because inqa is a side. It's not an angle. Therefore, ugolo nqantathu would be the correct one. I absolutely agree, Simpiwe. If we had taught things like mathematics and physics and biology in our languages, they would make way more sense. I can promise you, because it's stuff that we deal with every day. I can show you an example. When you cross 2 lines together, in my language we say ukunqamla. Ukunqamla. Or hufapana. Ukuphambana, hufapana. That is literally what right angle is based on. Right angle is when things intersect perpendicular to each other. When they intersect perpendicular to each other, ziyaxwesa, ziyafapana or ziyaphambana at a right angle. That idea doesn't need to be explained that deep. It already makes sense to me. But when you speak of right angle triangles or right angle shapes in a foreign language, already it makes no sense to a child, because what are you talking about? Right angle triangle? I don't even understand what this means. But I come in my language and I tell the child, no, it's 2 lines that are intersecting at 90 degrees to each other, which means in my language, ziyaxwesa, ukuxwesana kwemigca is the intersection of lines at right angles to each other. Already they understand what I mean completely, because ukuxwesa means to cross. So when lines cross each other as straight lines, that's 90 degrees. And this is the kind of stuff that our people should be fighting for. You cannot tell me that you are free, but for you to have any economic prospects, to have any chance of being active in the economy, contributing to tax, you need to learn in a foreign language. But you say you're free. You are not free. You just have the illusion of freedom. You just have the illusion of freedom. Even within shapes, when we talk about mathematics, within shapes, we learned about things like the isosceles triangle, which has 3 internal angles that are not equal to each other. And then we learned about the equilateral triangle. All angles are equal to each other. It's very easy. You just break down those words. Equilateral. So all these angles are equal to each other. So you find the most sensible words to use in those instances. But more than all of that, I wanted to transfer the idea of the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the longest side in a right-angled triangle. They took this idea, attributed it to Pythagoras, right? They say it's Pythagoras' idea. But you can go as far back as the Babylonian tablets that were written in cuneiform. They knew what the right-angled triangle is. They knew the theorem of Pythagoras before Pythagoras was even born. So they understood that when you take the 2 sides of a right-angled triangle, the two shorter sides, square them together, and add, and take the sum of the square roots and root it. What you get there is the length of the hypotenuse. But what is a hypotenuse? A hypotenuse is literally the longer side. That's what it means. Hypo means underneath. Hypo means underneath. Tinean means to stretch. Hypotenuse is this long stretched side underneath. It is nothing hectic. There's nothing hectic about the word hypotenuse. But when you teach a Zulu child, a Xhosa child, a Sotho child, a Pedi child, a Venda child, the word hypotenuse, firstly, they are intimidated by even pronouncing this word. They don't know how to pronounce it correctly because somebody's gonna laugh at them because they're gonna mess up the pronunciation. So already they have little confidence to learn the concept behind the maths. Hypotenuse means the side that is underneath, that is stretched, which means the longer side basically. In my language, the easiest way to put it would be ngangobude. Ngangobude means equal to the length or the longest thing in any given instance. Do you understand? Hey, someone asked me what is mathematics in this course. No, mathematics is not izibalo. The biggest problem in our language is we simplify things too much, or we are lazy to understand what things really are. Mathematics is not izibalo because izibalo literally means counting. Counting is just an aspect of mathematics. Mathematics is not just counting. The actual origin of mathematics in and of itself, the word is mathematike. It comes from the base mantanein, meaning to learn. It comes from the base mantanein, which means to learn. Ututa, uruta, ukufunda. That's the basis of mathematics, to learn. It's not numbers, but it's the learning. And therefore, from the word mantanein, to learn, the word mathematike was derived. But what does mathematike mean in and of itself? It means to learn through instruction. To learn through instruction. Ukufunda ngomyalelo. That is the essence of mathematics. To learn through instruction, which means to be trained while you learn. Ufundiso ngqeqesho. To learn not by yourself but to be trained. So that's the essence of mathematics. It's important to be trained in it, which means there are established truths as the underlying facts of mathematics, and you need to be trained on how to apply those truths. And as a science now altogether, greetings my brother, mathematics is really the study of numbers, shapes, space, and the qualities of all these things together. So we use a special system of symbols and all that, but that's not the core essence of maths. The very core essence, the earliest understanding of what maths is, it's learning. Learning is the most important aspect of maths. And it's got different areas. It's not just numbers, which is what our people are confused by arithmetic. When we talk about numbers, that's arithmetic. In mathematics, we call that arithmetic. And then we have also the number theory, which talks about the manipulation of numbers, whether we call them natural numbers, integers, rational numbers, etc. Now, numbers in and of itself is a very basal human thing because we have fingers, we have toes. That is the basis of numbers. Do you understand? We count up to the base of 10 for the most part because we've got 10 toes. That's why when you study logarithms in mathematics, they all have the base of 10. Why? Because we always took physical ideas and conceptualized them. If you count your fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that is 10 fingers. And therefore, we use the base of 10. Some other cultures use the base of 20. It makes sense as well, because if you count the toes as well, it's 20. And obviously, different cultures, you go to the Aztecs, to the Mayan cultures, to the Arabs, to the Indians, they had different concepts. They had different but the main idea that I'm conveying is that we have these ideas already in our cultures. These are not strange ideas. Our problem is that someone else packaged them for us, marketed them to us as if they are external ideas. Counting is not a Roman thing. Counting is not an English thing. We all count. Inye, 1. Ngwe, 1. Gwi, 1. Jui, 1. This is the idea of singularity as opposed to asideness, apartness. The concept of 1 is singularity as opposed to apartness. 2, bini, ongam, okam, ongam, opedi. This is the other. This is the idea of the other. Or the double effect of the same. That's 2. 3, tatu or nakati. This is the idea of extra. Remember, 1, singularity. 2, the double effect. 3, the extra one from the double. 4 is the double of the double. And these are the ideas we add on top of that all the way to 10. Shumi, or in core dialects, is shumi or kumi. That's 10. Kunye kwase kuyabila, kubili. Yes, because kubili is based on kunye. 2 can only be 2 if there was 1 to begin with. 2 can only be 2 if there was 1 to begin with. The biggest problem is that we treat our language as mere translations of English and Afrikaans or German or Portuguese, whichever group colonized you. We treat our languages as mere translations of other, somehow seemingly or purportedly superior languages. And that could not be further from the truth. Our languages are the basis. Our languages are the basis. They are not translations. That's why even to this day, some of our people seek to invalidate and nullify our languages. You have words like makoti, which have nothing to do with Europeans. Makoti, or the female of abakosi, makoti. People will tell you, oh no, makoti comes from mark on steer. It has nothing to do with the mark on steer, which is grammatically incorrect to begin with. But because our people are so deluded and drunk with the wine of Babylon, they think we could not have had words that are originally ours. And the words that are not ours are the ones that they're going to defend, like Sbali, which is obviously Zwaar in Afrikaans, or Zwaar in Dutch, or Zwager in German. You can look at all the Germanic languages, they have this word. It has nothing to do with us. Our languages are not just mere translations of European languages. No, they're not. And it's important to understand this, that we already had this word. So this is science. This is just science. And it's very important that I talk about maths, because a lot of our people are not happy with mathematics. They don't like it. And maths is very important because maths is spiritual. Maths is not just numbers, guys. It is the study of the fabric of reality. The fabric of, it's like a torch. When you go into the darkness, that torch is mathematics. It helps you understand, it helps you explain the unspoken truth of what reality is to begin with. That's why we talk, when we go into science, we talk of reality. We talk about space, time, distance. We talk about dimensions. We talk about dimensions, but to be able to communicate what dimensions are, we need space, we need time, We need distance. Yay. You understand? And speed. And all those three things need each other. They coexist. But we can't talk about umkati. We can't talk about umkati, space, if we're unable to communicate iskati, time. Iliqa, time. Ixesha, time. And we can't talk about ixesha if you're unable to practically measure ixesha. And to measure ixesha, we need something relatable like the moon and the sun. Hey. Yay. We can't talk about distance if you don't understand what space is to begin with. And we cannot talk about space if you are unable to conceptualize it based on the physical reality that we see. Hence, when we look at the sky above us and the earth, whatever is in between, then we can take that concept of in-betweenness, that concept of in-betweenness, and say umkati. Because kati means middle, and therefore the in-betweenness of things, umkati, space. It's a baka space. It's so important because these are fundamental ideas of reality. Nothingness. Nothingness. Zero. What is zero? Where does it come from? You know, when we were young, learning about concepts like zero, our teachers just told us zero is iqanda. But iqanda has nothing to do with numbers. Iqanda literally means the yellow brownish thing. The word the qan is a color. Like impofu, if you look at the color of an egg and the color of an eland, impofu, it's the same thing. The word qanda and the word impofu mean the exact same thing. It's a color. Qanda is a color and therefore it's used for an egg. Now our people take the shape of zero and they're like, oh, it looks like an egg, therefore zero is qanda. But zero is not qanda. Qanda does not even begin to translate the idea of what zero is. And that doesn't even begin to translate the idea of what zero is. What zero is, the representation of emptiness. It is the representation of emptiness. And what is emptiness? In fact, the English took zero via French zero from the Italian zero, which is a contraction of the Venetian zevero, from an Italian zefiro via safira or sephir, which they took from the pre-Islamic times. Sephir means empty. Sephir itself evolved to mean zero, but it was translated from sunya, which was in Sanskrit from India. Sephir, equivalent to isipelo in our languages, the nothingness, the end. You may think of zero as nothingness or beginning, but also zero is the end, because if you take 10 from 10, kuphelile isiphelo, sifir. So zero is nothingness as in isiphelo and isiqalo. In our understanding, zero is nothingness as the beginning and the end. It's the non-entity. It's not iqanda. Yeah, the yellow cow called iqanda. Yes, iqanda means yellow. It has nothing to do with zero. So we need to be very careful. Sometimes I read these books that have been translated and I'm like, this does not even capture the fundamental idea that is behind this word. We must read these books because they don't represent the true meaning behind these concepts. And that's just on the mathematical side of things. We could go into business. We could go into business lingo. And it's important that I talk about this one. Business, because that's where our people are abused a lot. Our people are abused because apparently our languages are not formal. We don't have formal speech. If you say imoto iqanda, the car is yellow, yes. In business, for example, they will always try and colloquialize anything that represents us. Be it our hair, they will colloquialize it and make it casual. Oh, no, you can't have dreadlocks at work because it's casual, it's not formal. When did our natural hair become casual now? When did our natural hair become casual? But they do this with even with our languages. Oh no, you can't speak. I once worked in a place in George, Western Cape, where there was that collapsed building. A few years back, I worked there. Apparently, when I speak my language, some people become uncomfortable. They become uncomfortable. And I realize, I need to speak my language even more because they speak their languages, which are not the official languages of the company. In meetings, they crack jokes every single day. But I can't because they've colloquialized our languages, demonized them, and we've accepted it for far too long. Our languages are formal. They are business speech because business is not an external concept. It is our concept. It's how iron moved from Mapungubwe to the Southern Cape in Outeniqua Mountains. It's how iron moved from Bukoni to Iqaib, so-called Cape Town today. It's how iron moved from Zata in what we know as Venda today to us in what we know as Uppington, Kimberley today. It's how we traded amongst each other through business. We have got business philosophies. We've got business understanding. We've got fundamental rules when it comes to business. It's not something that came with Ernst & Young. It's not something that came with, Price Waters Cooper House. It's not something that came with these consulting firms. It didn't come with Forbes. It didn't. So when we talk about business, perhaps we could look at wealth as well. Minerals. Someone asked me, what is the original name for gold? Well, there are multiple names for gold. One of the more famous one is the name Imbo and the name Ibenga. Imbo and Ibenga. You see? Or Imbenga. Imbo and Ibenga is a word that's used for something that's gold. In fact, in isiXhosa there's a saying, walahla imbo yakho ngophoyana. Remember imbo from the word ukomba. So it's the stone you dig for. It's the stone you dig for. It's not igolide and it's not Gauta. Gauta and Golide have nothing to do with us. That's why the name Gauteng must be completely removed. The name Gauteng must be absolutely removed there. We don't know what Gauteng is. We don't have Gautatin. Or Gaut. So, something that's called Imbenga, you will find this word across multiple languages, by the way. It's not just one language. You will find it across multiple languages. But gold is not only is not the only mineral we know of. Because not only did we dig for minerals, we processed minerals. We burnt them through the fire. We formed them into shapes. We did the smithing as well. Not only did we dig, but we did the smithing. Not only did we do the smithing, but we had pipelines. We had pipelines, value systems to add value from digging the ore into burning it, into processing it into shapes, into selling it and forming it, and then transferring it as a full end product. And I'm going to talk about that. What does it mean when you say Masia Embo? Remember, Embo, it's the towns, the civilization that were developed along the east, especially of the country. From Natal to the Libombo area, all the way through to the north. So Embo is those old civilizations. So roughly translated to say Masia Embo, It's not literal. It doesn't say go to the places that used to mine gold. It says go back to ancient traditions. That's what it means. Ukuya Embo means to go back to ancient traditions. A big part of those ancient traditions is to love yourself and to have faith in yourself and to believe in yourself and to have confidence in yourself. What we see out here of our people begging and being voluntary slaves, that's wrong. That's not culture, I'm sorry. That's just outright stupidity. So when we talk about gold, we need to also talk about other minerals that we had to dig for. Firstly, to dig for the minerals is called ukumba, ukomba, opa, different languages. Right? Embo means something that is dug or something that is in a hole, that is hidden, literally. Figuratively, it can then mean a womb. It can then mean a womb, figuratively. But literally, it means something that's dug or that's hidden in a hole. And it needs to be taken out. Now, talking about gold leads me to talk about other minerals. Imbenga being gold. Now I'm thinking of other minerals now. Ubedu. I'm thinking about ubedu now. And I once heard that the Balubedu people, the people who speak Kilobedu, were actually people of this precious metal, right? We used to take this bronze and make multiple things with them. We do not only use them for decorative purposes. We use them in our dancing because they produce specific type of sounds. We use them to make certain sticks for royalties. It's called ubedu. It's called itusi. Yes, it's called itusi as well. We had something called igolomi. Igolomi was a tinkling brass instrument that was worn for dancing and decoration. And we also had igolombane, which was a bronze tinkling ornament. And this didn't come from Europeans. It was literally designed by our people. In my language, we called brass ikina. Ina is the name for brass. For brass, a precious metal. We called it ikina. We didn't need European words like golide or bulasi. Hi, man. And we used to make different things. For example, a button that was made of brass, a conical button that's cone-shaped. We called it unompondwana. It looks like little horns of a cow. You know, a young cow that is growing little horns. Those horns, if you look at them, they are like conical in shape. So a conical button that's made of brass, we called it unompondwana. And it's very important, ne? It's very important to know these words, because these words are absolutely indigenous in origin, and it detaches us from anything that has to do with anyone else, whether Arabs or Portuguese or Dutch. We have to be detached from them when we talk about these things. We need to be detached from Arabs, Portuguese, because now what they are trying to do now is to claim that Mapungubwe, is to claim that Bukoni ruins, Inzalo Yelanga, Manyikeni, Zata, Kweneng, all these stone ruins. They are trying to claim that now somehow they must have been created by non-African people. And when they fail to claim that these were created by non-African people, because there's very clear evidence of ironwork by our people, goldsmithing by our people, then they say those people of ours are no longer our people. They've done it with the Balemba, they will do it with Balobedu, they will do it with Bavenda, they are doing it with the Shona now. You will hear things like, oh no, the Shona are Arabs. Oh no, the guys, come on, man. When did they become Arabs now? Because when they were being oppressed, all these people, they were not called Arabs. When these people were being oppressed, they were not called European descendants. Why now, all of a sudden, when there's undeniable, irrefutable evidence that these people built stone civilizations, they worked gold, they worked metal, why all of a sudden now they have to be non-African? Come on. Come on now, don't play with me like that. Huh? Don't you play with me like that. Hey, come on, guys. So we need to be careful of these things. That's why when we learn about these subjects, we have to always detach as far as we possibly can from anything other than indigenous origin. So copper is ubedu or itusi. Ubedu or itusi. But also this name ubedu is also used for very rich grass. When grass is very rich, it's also called ubedu. This name is also used for a male who's actually very good looking. They call him ubedu. Absolutely, itusi, because itusa imemoya engakahlambuluki. True, to cleanse, and that's another element. That's another element of these precious metals. They were not just metals for use in an extractive sense. These metals were also energy suppliers and conductors in spiritual alignment. They provided certain energies. They provided certain, they were like the vessels to convey certain energies. And therefore they had spiritual significance. That's why to this day, gold or gold-plated stuffs, gold-plated elements, buttons, etc. will be used in certain spiritual proceedings. Same as itus or the copper. You will find a lot of people who have spiritual leadership, they will tend to use itus or the copper or litus in their proceedings. Because these precious metals, they come from underground, almost as if coming out of the womb. They have certain powers with them. That's why back in the day, people believed that gold was the blood of the gods. That's why if you dig around Mapungubwe and many other places of civilization, around the graves of kings, you'll find gold in the graves of the kings. Why? Because it transmitted energy. And even scientifically, these things are the most potent conductors. They are the most potent conductors. So it's very important. But it's not only, it's not only the extraction of these metals that's important when we talk about wealth, but it's also important to understand what was done when they were extracted. After they were extracted, what was done with them? What was done? There's something called isidlangalala. There's something called isidlangalala. When people talk about isidlangalala today, they will normally talk about something that's done in the open. No, let's speak in the open. But isidlangalala in and of itself is not the open. Isidlangalala is literally the furnace, the fire furnace for melting ore. Remember, when you dig for gold, when you dig for gold, it doesn't come out pure. It doesn't come out pure. It comes out impure, and it needs to be purified. And for it to be purified, it needs to be burned through the iron ore. So what we used to do is sifutisa isinyithi. Ukufutisa isinyithi is to melt the iron ore. Isinyithi is the iron ore or the gold ore, which means the impure rock or solid matter that comes containing the precious metal. When we take it, we receive it in an impure state. It has to be purified through the burning and melting. You melt it in a fire hearth or in a furnace, which we used to call isidlangalala. And I know in the different languages of our people, Sisuthu, Setswana, Sepedi, Silubedu, Xitsonga, Shinkuna, Yipai, all these different languages, they had their own words. We have to burn the iron ore in the furnace. Sifutisa isinyithi kwisidlangalala. None of these words have any origin except African origin. I don't want to hear about, oh no, it's Arabic in origin. No, it's indigenous language. It has nothing to do with your Arabs. Now all of a sudden, people from Limpopo are Arab descendants. Hey, the Arabs are taking the land there in Limpopo. they will come and claim you as well as long as they get the land. Just like the Chinese are doing as well in East Africa. You know, they will go to some village in Kenya with some Chinese descendants. And they, oh no, we have a long history. And then they buy up all the land. And there are many other groups who do that. Oh no, you guys are Israelite descendants. Then they'll take up all the land in that process. Come on now. So when we take the iron or the gold or any other precious metal from the soil, it comes out impure. Just like a child comes out of the womb, that child is impure. Not in an evil sense. They are impure for this world. So they need to be purified through a process known as ukupehlelela. We pehlelela the child. That child, where I come from, fire is made out of a herb called isinukambiba, the one that smells like the mouse, the wild mouse. Isinukambiba. It's burnt, and that child is held by the feet, and that child is, we dangle that child on top of the smoke, and we say incantations, hush, 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 and then the women say stuff and say stuff. If you look at it, you'll think, hey, these people are primitive. But if you study the properties of the herb that's being burnt and the pungent smell, you realize that it opens the lungs of the child. It opens up the lungs. That's why back in the day, you would never hear of things like tuberculosis amongst our people, because there were processes in place to ensure that the breathing abilities of our people are optimized from the birth. And then that child will be fed liquid foods known as izicakati, which have a sole purpose of cleansing the internal organs. These lives are saved, and they are all on YouTube. Yes, all my lives are on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and search. There on YouTube, Sandile Tukani is there. There under Sandile Tukani, you can go to my different playlists and find Sandile Wamadzikani. All my lives are there. Or you can go Sandile Tukani University and find the other episodes. Yes, today they vaccinate you before a child is even born. They put vaccines there, interfering with the development of the embryo. Almost like dictating your life before you are even born. Hey. You know, our parents and our grandparents did not even need vaccines. They had other ways to do it. They had other ways. They would go to the ocean and get specific type of fish, let that fish die, take the bones, grind them into powder, mix the bones with certain herbs, and the woman who's pregnant is going to drink those herbs. She's going to have a checkup every now and then, and the child is going to be very healthy. Very, very healthy. So just like a child is purified when they come to the physical dimension, and the ore that comes from the earth, which is the womb, the mother of us all, the ore that comes from there, from underneath that ore called isinyiti, that ore needs to be purified through the fire. We call that isidlangalala. So iron ore is called isinyiti, and gold ore is also called isinyiti. The fireplace or the furnace, we call it what is this? Isidlangalala. And this is important because you need to understand the whole obsession of Europeans with South Africa is the promise. It is the promise of gold. In the 1600s, let's go back a bit, yeah? Let's go to Cape Town, yeah? We'll go to the 1400s to the Portuguese, but let's go to Cape Town. In the 1670s, Mr. Pura, you saying you are stuck on the word Islangalala. No, you can still say Islangalalin. It's fine, but you must understand Islangalala, when you use it in the open, you are just using it now figuratively. It doesn't necessarily mean the open, like the real open. Like, it's just a figurative way of using the language. So there's nothing wrong when you say Islangalala, meaning in the open. But its literal meaning means in the fireplace. That's what it means literally, in the fireplace. But let's go back to the obsession of the Europeans with with South Africa. What was the promise? The promise was gold. The promise was precious metals. You know, when the Portuguese arrived here in the early days of the 1400s, and the Germans as well, and the Dutch, they all believed that there was gold. In fact, not only did they believe it, they saw it. You can read about Muene Mutapa, or Mono Mutapa as they say, Great Zimbabwe and all the other kingdoms. You can read the kings literally wore golden crowns. And Europeans will never pass a chance to take some gold. But even more so, in the 1670s, in what we know as Cape Town today, which, by the way, Cape Town is Kwiqab. It's Kwiqab, which means the gathering of clouds, where the clouds gather. Where the clouds gather, that's the name of Cape Town. Kwiqab, or Kwiqis. Anyway, there in the 1670s, a certain chief or Gaub called Sweswa, a chief or a leader of the Khainukwa, who are based in the Overberg region, in places such as Caledon today, places such as Swellendam today, Grabo today. This chief of the Khainukwa people, who were very close allies to the Xhosa. I mean, in the 1650s already, a couple of Xhosa women were married to these people, and a couple of Xhosa men were in the Western Cape. And Auchumao, the leader of the Kamakwa, who are part of the Kurikikwa, by the way, saw Xhosa people in Worcester in the 1650s. So sometimes it's interesting when people say, oh no, the Xhosa are economic migrants in Cape Town. It's very interesting to me because they were pushed out of Cape Town to begin with, but that's for another day. The former name of Cape Town in Kwekwe Goab is Kwiqab. That's Kwekwe Goab. It's Kwiqab. And the former name, which not former name actually, the actual name. And the actual name of Table Mountain in Kwemana or Kora, it's Arab, which means the mountain that rises out of the sea. All these places have names, all of them. Even Joburg, it has a name, actual names, not Johannesburg. But let's go back. Jan van Riebeeck was told by Sweswa, Gauchab Sweswa, the chief of the Ainukwa, a strong ally of the Hamkwa and the Xhosa, a very strong ally. He was told that there in the east of the country, by this time they are in the Cape Peninsula, in what is now Cape Town CBD, in the area of the Table Bay. As Sweswa is talking to Jan van Riebeeck, he's telling him that, look, Van Riebeeck, there's gold here. I can show you, I can bring you these people who live in the east of the country for the most part. They've got gold, they are rich in gold, they are rich in cattle. Jan van Riebeeck never forgot that. That's actually what pushed them to enter the country, full force. Initially, they just wanted to build a refreshment station. But if you go to Jan van Riebeeck's diary, it's written there. And any other writer who's worth a cent, they all spoke about it. The obsession of Jan van Riebeeck with the possibility of gold in South Africa. In fact, in the 1680s, the governor of the Cape, I think it's Simon van der Stel at that time, the man by whom Stellenbosch is named and Simonstown is named, Simon van der Stel. By the way, Simon van der Stel was not pure European. He was European-Asian. Simon van der Stel sent an ensign to the Eastern Cape called Isaac Schryver. Isaac Schryver took a 3-month journey in 1686 to the Eastern Cape. He went all the way areas such as Graaf Reinet, Grey Dog, in that vicinity, Kwano Joli. He found there Uhintsati, the king of the Sukwini people and the Kwashu people today, the likes of Siyakolisi, the likes of Lukanyo Ngahwane. He found him there. He found him to be very rich. He found him to be controlling vast pieces of land. They didn't find the gold. But Jan van Riebeeck never lost hope. That was the basis of their stay in the country. They didn't stay in the country because they loved the country. They still don't love it to this day. That's why any inconvenience, they threaten to leave because they always have a second option. But they stayed because they knew that there was wealth. And there's evidence of early mining, very early mining. There are mining, there are mines, there are gold mines, way before this nonsense of gold rush that they talk about. Oh no, there was a gold rush in the 1820s. That's why Johannesburg was built. No, there was gold long before that. I'm talking about the BC era in South Africa. So this is basically the main reason these people stayed. And the main reason they're still staying to this day. Same thing with the Portuguese on the east of the country. They stayed there and even became part of those communities all the way from the Eastern Cape, Wild Coast, all through to Mozambique, to Zimbabwe. They became part of the clans there because there was the promise of gold. They know the value of gold. They know the value of gold. They do know it. But not for the benefit of you, the people who own it, but for their own benefit. They do study these things. When they invade places, they don't throw away the knowledge, they steal it for themselves. That's why to this day in the Vatican, there are vaults underground full of transcripts from multiple cultures around the world with hidden history. So at least the ones who were the elites understood the value of gold. I don't know about the workers and the farmers, but I know the elites, the royal families understood it. They know it even to this day. Just like they know the value of the blood of people and the value of life, which they suck out of people. Anyway, that's not the point today. So the point is that there was gold, there were precious metals, and they knew. But we knew it thousands of years before they even existed. Before the Anglos moved from Germany to England, we already were working with gold. Before England even existed a place, before the Anglo-Saxons were even a thing, we were working with gold here. And yet today they have the unmitigated temerity to come here and tell our people that they arrived in the 1800s. Arrive where? We are literally the reason you even exist in the first place. Oh my goodness. Our people always knew the value of gold and precious metals. We are the ones who don't know because we are the children of slaves. Remember, our demise did not begin in 1948 with the official announcement of apartheid. Our demise began in the 1400s with the arrival of the Portuguese. But before the Portuguese, we had the Arabs and the Indians and the Chinese. There's evidence of that. Before the Portuguese, in the 13 and the 1200s, we had the Bedouins, the Moors here in Southern Africa. There's evidence. That's why to this day, along the coastal areas, you still have descendants of these people. So there was always that interest. And I mean, some people believed, they were driven by their own beliefs that, South Africa was this new chosen land. This new chosen land. So we always understood the importance of these precious metals. So gold is imbenga, copper is ubedu or itusi, brass, in my culture we call it iqina, iron we call insimbi, is called iron, and various articles made of iron we also call them insimbi, and then metal we call metal generally, it's called inkrenkre. You see, words like inkrenkre for metal, qina for brass. These are not words that came from Europe, unfortunately. No, not grass, Mr. Pura. Brass. Brass, brass. It looks like bronze. It's a precious metal as well. So I want to talk about business language. The reason why I started with these precious metals is because that was the basis of business here as we know it. But business was not based on that only. A lot of Europeans, a lot of Asians, when they came here, they were also looking for ivory. Ivory, which is found in the horns of animals, especially the horns of elephants. You see, especially the horns of elephants. We worked with the horns of elephants a lot. For example, we used to make earrings with the ivory that comes out of the horns of elephants. We call those earrings ingwagwa. Ingwagwa. Those were earrings or ornamental ear buttons that were made from ivory. We used to make bands for the arm bands, and these arm bands were called imikhaga. Imikhaga. These ones were used also to distinguish nobility. Now, the word khaga means to tie or to hook in. Khaga is to hook in. And if you look at the shape of the ivory of the elephants, that shape, it's literally, those horns will hook you in. They are the hooks, basically. So the word umkhaga is the word to hook. Hence, the armbands or the rings that were made with the ivory of elephants were known as imikhak. And men of distinction, people of distinction, were called izinxiba mkhak. That's a distinguished noble person. Oh, Mr. Sir Anele. Abakhaga, thank you, sir. Abakhaga, my brother, I think it comes from the word ikaka, a good for nothing person. I think that's the original pronunciation, ikaka. Like something that's damaged, something that's finished, a good for nothing fellow. Ikakaviti in full. Someone who's lazy, someone who's worn out, who's finished. Ikakaviti. So I think ikaka comes from that. Hence, in Tsotsitaal it became umkhaka. Yeah, umkhaka umjita yabo impatha. We like to use this word as kids. But imikhaka themselves are the ivory of the elephants, which were in high demand from the Asians, from the Moors, from some of the early Europeans. And they came here in Southern Africa for these because we had an abundance of elephants. Not only an abundance of elephants, but we were the experts in elephant hunting. How did we hunt elephants? Hey, you ask me. Let me tell you. Let me tell you how we hunted elephants. To hunt an elephant, you needed more than a day. To hunt an elephant, you needed more than one person. You could not hunt an elephant alone. Entire families, a husband, wife, and even children, cattle, they would take all of those and go together. It's something we used to call ipulo. So a hunting expedition that was designed to hunt an elephant or other big game was known as ipulo. We used to ukupuma ipulo, which means we used to go on an expedition to hunt these elephants. To hunt an elephant, one of the most effective methods was to make fire around the elephant 24/7. To make massive fire, a circle of fire, and surround the elephant. The fire worked to prevent the elephant from running off. This fire is meant to keep it in a controlled place until it gets tired. But an elephant is massive. It's not going to get tired within a day. You'd need a week or even 2 weeks. That's why men left their homes with their wives, with their cattle, with, literally with luggages, imithwalo, to go and, hunt elephants. And once the elephant is hunted, obviously there are expert hunters here, known as ing'awu. We call them ing'awu. Ng'awu means to hunt. These expert hunters were ones who were trusted with shooting the bow, and they would capture the animal, get the ivory, and it would be traded with these Asians, the Chinese, the Indians, the Arabs. The Arabs, we would trade with the Arabs through the Mozambican side, all the way to Tanganyika, which ended up being known as Azania. Azania is not an indigenous name. It comes from a root word, zang. Zang or zanye, which means dark or black. Zang. You find this word in Persian, You find this word in some Southeast Asian languages. You find it in Arabic. It means dark. So Azania means the place of the dark people. But the word Zan also ended up being used as the word nigger. So it's not a good word. It's not something to be proud of to call yourself Azania. That's why this word is just mind-boggling to me. It actually shows how little our people know about these things. Anyway, the trading of ivory was just one way to trade. We traded many other things like lion skin, lion paws. For example, to hunt lions, how we did it was to take the shield, ikau and ikak, to take the shield, lay down with the shield. Take one man must lay down with the shield. Maybe you will put some blood on the shield so that the lion can smell. And then that man is going to be a trap, basically. The lion will come to attack the man who's fully covered in shield, and the other men are going to come behind and attack the lion. Those are just some of the methods we used to hunt these big animals. And when hunting, the goal is to acquire something. You don't hunt for fun. You hunt because it's an important part of the ecosystem. But also you don't hunt to destroy the animal. In fact, as you finish hunting the animal, you would say some incantations, izinqulo, to praise this animal, to allow it to rest. You would say izinqulo because these animals are literally kings. So it's important to respect even the carcass, and nothing would go to waste. The tail and the tuft, umsila, ichobo, would be used in certain things. The foot, the paws would be used in certain things. The teeth are going to be used in certain things. The skin is going to be used, the skull, all these different aspects didn't go to waste. These animals were not killed brutally. They were highly respected. And immediately when it's killed, certain observations were to be made. And a certain part of the animal goes to the most senior king. For example, if you killed an eland, the chest area, which is the richest area of the eland, it was the right of the king. You can't eat that part. You can't take it for yourself. If you take it for yourself, all your wealth will be stripped away from you. So there were very strict rules to observe and abide by. This is very important to understand. There were strict rules to observe and abide by. So we used to trade these things, animal skin. We used to trade dacha, marijuana, very important herb of South Africa. It's an extremely important herb of South Africa, especially in the Eastern Cape and in the Western Cape. It's called dacha. What does the name dacha mean? It's an indigenous name. Dacha means to mix up, ukunxila, ukudaka. That's why drugs are called izidaka mizwa. Izidaka mizwa. Daka is the same word as dacha. You see, daka is the same word as dacha. It's actually an indigenous word. In Sisud Hutao, the word dacha comes from that root word. So dacha was a massive, massive commodity. In fact, there are still trade routes. There are still trails that are evident today in a lot of these farms that are owned by people who don't even use them. There are still evident trails from Western Cape all the way to Mpondoland, all the way to Southern KZN, showing trade between these communities, because dacha was one of the biggest things that were being traded internally and externally. And even the smoking methods were so advanced. They used to smoke it through water and through the hole underground. But that's not the purpose of what I'm sharing. I'm sharing the long tradition of trading. The long tradition of trading. When they say that, oh no, our languages, we don't have business lingo. We don't have business lingo. It's confusing to me because we are the essence of business. When they came here, they literally did business with us. They would have died otherwise. The whole concept of trading is called ukuhweba. Ukuhweba is to trade, to persuade to buy. Marketing, what you call marketing today, luhwebo. We've always had it. Ukuhweba is to persuade someone to buy, is to trade, to barter. to accumulate by trading, uyarhweba. You understand? And words like shishini, shishini, it's business. Shishini, it's actually handicraft, handiwork trade. So when you do trade, especially when you work with your hands, so like businesses that are specialized in skin, businesses that specialize in creating stuff, they would be called amashishini, because by ashishina they do handiwork, handicraft. They have workshops. So today businesses like panel beaters and all that, kuyashishinwa. Whereas corporates would be known as urhwebo. It's business. So for me, I don't understand when they say we don't have business language. Why would we have words which mean to sell if we don't have business language? To sell, ukuthengisa, ukuthengisa. To buy, ukuthenga, hureka. Yeah? Come on, guys. Come on now. We traded heavily. Yes, salt. We traded heavily in salt as well. No, salt, remember, salt is a natural thing. So we do have salt that we source from the water. We traded amongst each other. Remember, I mentioned that there are trade routes between Western Cape all the way to Southern KZN, Eastern Cape all the way to Lesotho, across Northern Cape. I'll give you an example of trading amongst each other. When you trade, for example, when Mushweshwe and Litsiye the first, in what is now Lesotho, there was another king there, Enge, so-called Muros. Muros was so good at making weapons. He had an entire business of making weapons altogether. Altogether, he used to make weapons. He used to trade heavily with the Basotho people with weapons. But we also, when we started to acquire guns, we traded guns amongst each other. So trading was an internal thing we did amongst each other. The Kora traded with the Zulu traded with the Swati, and in the northern areas, the Tsonga peoples. The Xhosa traded with the Sotho, the Vundle, the Mpondomise. The Xhosa traded with the Sukwini and the Hintsati. There's a long history of trade amongst these communities. A long history of trade. This is why someone from the Eastern Cape will have an indigenous name for a river that is in Limpopo. How can they have an indigenous name for a river that is in Limpopo and a river that is in Jeffreys Bay? But these people are from so-called former Transkei. They could only have an indigenous name if they are, acquainted with these places. And the easiest way there was to acquaint with these places was through trade. So trade is undeniable internally amongst our people. Salt was extracted in a couple of ways. One of the ways, it was through water. It's very easy. You can go and get a couple of water, and boil until it becomes powder. That was one way, That was one way to get salt. And it's very important that we understand these things. So trade, urhwebo, is our thing. It didn't come with Europeans. It's amazing now that you can't somehow know business unless you went and did a business science degree from a European institution or a European aligning institution. You can't be respected, or your opinion cannot be valued when it comes to business, unless you have some kind of credential that is approved by some European standard or Asian standard for that matter. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to adopt systems that are more optimized. If there's a European system that you feel like is more optimized, what you can do is to take that system, customize it for your own context, as an indigenous South African person. This is what the Chinese did with what they call socialism with Chinese characteristics. They took whatever the concept, the fundamental concept of socialism, but they adjusted it for their own concept. They didn't just import the whole thing, which is foreign to them, and let it consume them while they are watching, like we do in South Africa. They will go and import democracy, go and take democracy, not adjust it to our own concept. And that is the downfall of our people, unfortunately. That is the downfall of our people. So this is how you do it, you know? This is literally how you do it. You take concepts and you customize them for yourself. So our languages are so important. Whether we talk science, whether we talk business, or we talk academia, you know? It's not like we don't have these concepts. So it's sad for me when I see young children, for them to feel good about themselves, they need to be fully Europeanized. In 2025, in a time where they really don't have to be Europeanized, you can be fully whoever you are, fully Sutu, fully Tswana, fully Mutsonga, or Muvenda, or Mxhosa, or Mzulu. You can be fully that and also be extremely good in business. One doesn't have to replace the other. Because these things like business and science are not external to you. They are intricate to your identity. But you can never know that unless you revive that which you have lost through language. And I think this is the whole goal. I think this is the goal, to revive that which has been lost through language. Language is the vehicle through which we'll be able to understand the hidden secrets. When I was young, I go to the shop. I didn't need a scientific degree, a business degree, to know that I'm here to buy. Ndizotenga. I'm here to buy. Ureka. Uktenga. I didn't need a business science degree to know the concept of buying. And I understand that to buy, there needs to be a price. And there's a word for price in my language, ixabiso. It doesn't have to come from some economist in Sweden. I know ixabiso is price value. And if the seller and the buyer agree on ixabiso, I exchange with the seller what the seller wants from me and what the seller deems as of equivalent value to what the seller is giving me. That's business. That is the essence of business. But it doesn't just end in business. It's everything, such as tourism. Many people would have you believe that tourism is a foreign concept to us. And I can bet you tourism is a very indigenous concept. It's an extremely indigenous concept. With the change of season, our ancestors used to travel. When the rains and the colds of winter pass and the warmth of summer begins, you would see our people packing their bags, ingqowa zabo, izikhwama zabo, packing their skins and their reed mats, preparing their cows, amaqhegu, because we used to ride cows even before horses. We used to train cows for racing even before horses. We used to fight using cows in battle even before horses. You would see our people get on their cows, amaqhegu, and travel. We call it in my language, ukukenketa, to tour a place. Ukukenketa. And to visit, ukundwendwela. And today, tourism is seen as this European thing. It shocks me. It shocks me. And to see these things going unchallenged for decades without end, is telling. It tells of how little our people know about themselves. And you cannot be respected in the world if you don't respect who you are. But how can you respect who you are if you do not know who you are? So language is not just blabbing and talking nonstop about words and what words mean and where words come from. No, it's bigger than words. It's ideas. And idea is the fundament of civilization. It is the fundament of civilization. Without idea, there is no progress. The reason why today we can have heaters and stoves, we can have cars, it's all based on one simple idea: combustion. The generation of fire, combustion, umlilo, fire. But to make umlilo, there needs to be combustion, ukuqhwitha. Ukuqhwitha. But to be able ukuqhwitha, you need to bring certain things together. When those things to come together, they generate a reaction that causes inhlansi, spark. It causes spark, inhlansi. When the inhlansi come together, they meet with combustible material. But to gather that combustible material and put it together, we call that ukupemba. Ukupemba is the bringing of combustible material. Ukuqhwitha is the combustion itself. And when you do the combustion, there's a spark that happens through the reaction. It's a scientific reaction. It's spark, inhlansi. The inhlansi, and through ukupemba, form fire. Combustion. It's an idea. Fire doesn't just happen. You need to think what two things must come together in order for you to have fire. In core, we have something called doro. Doro means to rub together. Doro means to rub together. And that is the essence of fire. When you rub certain things together to generate enough heat energy, that heat energy brings about combustion. And it gives us fire. And through fire, we're able to cook. And through fire, we're able to heat ourselves. And through fire, we're able to create stoves and heaters. And from that idea comes engines. From that idea, you've got aeroplanes, you've got ships, you've got trains, you've got cars. Civilization. Civilization from a simple idea to make fire. Without that fire, some of our ancestors would be finished by snow by now. They would be finished there in the Drakensberg. In Kwakwa, some of the people would be dead if we did not understand the fundamental concept of heat. Ukufudumala, ushushu, ukuchisa. So when we talk about language, we not just talk about words. Words are just manifestation of something deeper. Idea. Umnakano. Ingamango. Ingcinga. Imicabango. And these ideas have to be processed. And the processing of idea has a result. That result is known as ukuqonda. Ukuqonda gives us the concept of mind in and of itself, ingqondo. This is language in its fullness. Language is the conveyance of fundamental ideas. These ideas are inspired by the reality in which we exist, inspired by our need to communicate. And when we communicate these ideas, we use keys, we use values, and we use key value pairs, coordinates that come together. A word has a meaning. A word has a meaning. That's a key value pair. That's a coordinate. That's a direction. It's giving you a direction. That's why when I'm telling you to do something, I'm giving you directions. I'm locating something in a certain place at a certain time. Key value pair. So words are not just sounds, because words contain meaning. Meaning is the transferring of idea. And the transferring of idea is what ensures continuity and longevity of civilization. So, unless then we reclaim the true sense of our language, unless we reclaim the true sense of our language and allow our language to evolve Evolve doesn't mean die. We need to allow our language to evolve so that we can improve our life as is. I'm going to talk about something. Culture, heritage, and civilization. As I grew up, I used to hear about something called isiko. And I'm not going to get too deep, but I'm going to explain the fundamental concept of what isiko is. Usiko, okay, someone is asking, yem yem and sopicho. Yem yem means many people. The word yem yem means many people. When many people appear suddenly, we say bate yem yem. Yem yem means many people who appear. So when, let's say, during a battle or during war, and then many people just come out and appear, that's called ukuti yem yem. That's what yem yem means. So Picho means the father of Picho. Picho was a child of this king. And Picho had a sibling called Toto. So Picho, uyise wo Picho. That's what it means. He was also called Sototo, uyise wo Toto. I think Toto was the daughter. Toto itself means, ukwetwa. I just wanted to answer that question, but I was still on the idea of culture, isiko. So Picho was a man, yes, he was a man. He lived. He had a child called Picho, and a child called Toto. He was a human being who lived on earth. He was a king. The idea of culture, isiko, and isitete as tradition. Culture is based on the concept of ukuseka and isiseko, and therefore umthetho siseko, umgaqo siseko. This is a fundamental principle of a society. Hence, isiko is a formulated fundamental principle that needs to be conveyed from generation to generation. It is a fundamental principle that is conveyed from generation to generation. It can be modified over time, as is the nature of humanity. As is the nature of humanity. Isithethe is the concept of umthetho, which changes as per the discretion of those in power. Isiko, is it connected to isika? Do you mean, is it connected to the word ukusika? I'm not going to address that. I just wanted to transfer the idea that isiko is related to isiseko, which is foundation. And umthetho is related to the word isithethe, umthetho. Ukusekela and ukusika, okay, I see that as well. Yes. Remember when you go and look for a plot, you go to the chief, and the chief uzakusikela inxiwa, or uzakusekela inxiwa. He will, because ukusika is also the process through which foundational principles are instilled. But even further than isiko and isithethe, there's something bigger that is superior above the two. This is called inkcubeko, from the word ukuchuba. Ukuchuba is to scatter. Ukuchuba is to investigate. When you take isikwebu sombila sombona, isikwebu sombila sombona, and you take the corns one by one, uyachuba, uyachoba. And this is the basis of civilization in our languages. Ukuchuba ingqondo nokuchuba ubuchopho. That's why we call the people who are experts in thinking, the philosophers, incuba buchopho. Those who go to the depths of the brain to formulate ideas, but to also investigate the relevance of these ideas. And that is what our languages allow us the opportunity to do, to formulate ideas, but to challenge them as well. And these are the kind of ideas that I referred to. Ideas such as business, ideas such as science. It's very important to understand Even modern day terms, or terms that seem to be modern day, that somehow you may think don't exist in your language, I can promise you they do exist. Someone asked me in one of my videos a few months ago, what would we call a vegetarian? Do we have words for these things? Seemingly modern ideas? But I can promise you we have words for these things. For we call a vegetarian idlamfuno. Idlamfuno. Because ukudla or ukutya, huja, is to eat. And umfuno are veggies, greens. And therefore, the one who eats greens is called idlamfuno, literally a vegetarian. It's not even a hectic idea, actually. It's a very straightforward idea if you think about it. But we have become so alienated to thinking in the perspective of our own languages that we think these modern terms must somehow be so difficult to translate. No, they are not. No, they're not, because they are based on real words. They are based on real words. And we can go as far as, for example, a doctor. A doctor is not udokotela. Has never been and will never be. Real word. Udokotela is a transliterated attempt. It's a transliterated attempt to adopt the word, you know. Someone is appearing. I will sort it out. It's fine. So it's a transliterated attempt. Umelaphi is the actual doctor, as you said. Umelaphi or umnyangi, umphilisi, muphodisi, ngaka. That's a doctor, literally. Literally, ugqirha. By the way, the word ugqirha, gqi means the art of manipulation of herbs and energy. Ubugqi. Some people even call ubugqi magic. It is the art of manipulating herbs and energy. Gqi. Kha means abundance of. So gqirha, the people who have abundance of ability to manipulate herbs, chemicals, and energy. You understand? Someone asked me what is the meaning of architecture. An architect, what would we call an architect? It's very easy. The word archi means chief. Tekton means to build or a builder. Umakinduna. Umakintloko. So umaki, the builder. Umaki, the builder. Induna, the chief or the head builder. Umakinduna. Or even ingcibi yokwakha in isiXhosa. Ingcibi yokwakha, the expert in building. That's what an architect. These are very basic ideas. But because we've my goodness, we've alienated ourselves from these things so much that when you hear the word architect, oh, it must be so fancy. I mean, it's good, but it's not that fancy, really. It's someone who's a head of building things. We can apply this to many other words. Just go to the basic idea the word is trying to translate. That idea is always something that's sensible, something that's practical. So an architect is umaki nduna. Umaki ntloko. Let me read some of these comments because I'm not understanding some of the things that are being said here. True. The word vegetarian doesn't even explain the act itself. True. But when you say indlamfino or idlamfino, we explain it very well. Someone is asking something that I like very much. What is masonry? It's stonework, specifically. Masonry is stonework. It has to do with stone. You see? It has to do with stone, particularly. So people who are experts in working with stone, those are masons. You understand? If you look at some of the symbolism that has to do with stonework, you'll see a square and a campus. Now, in our languages, okay, maybe let's go to the etymology of the word masonry. Let's go to the etymology. It literally means the art of stone. Masonry, the art of stone. Now, ingcibi yeche. Ingcibi yeche would be a mason. Would be a mason. An artist of stone. I'm looking for the word. There's a word that, oh yes, I found this word. Inganduli. That would be perhaps a mason. Inganduli, someone who works with stone. Now, the word ukuqandula is to work the stone, is to dress the stone. There's a place in the Eastern Cape known as Umqanduli. That place is named after a hill. The hill is called Umqanduli. The hill itself is named after a man who was a stone mason who stayed there. Remember when we grind foods, when we make isbaya that are made with stone, we had to do some stonework. We had to ukuqandula. So masonry, the art, would be called uqandulo, and a mason, the person, would be called umqanduli. You understand? So that would be masonry. But it can differ in each language because we have many dialects. But the essence of masonry is the art of stone, to work with stone specifically. So in whatever your local language is, you can then, you can customize it for that. Now, archaeology, I love it because it has the word logi. Archaeology has the word logi in it. Now, we know logi comes from the word logia, which means the study of. Logi or logia, the study of something. You have this in geology, the study of the earth. We have this in biology, which means the study of life. Now, archaeology, it means the study of ancient things. Archeo, the study of ancient history. That's literally what it means. So we can say to study things that have passed. Now we would have to look for a word that is aligned with something that's ancient in our languages. Obviously, I'm not going to know the words in all the languages, but we can say ufundo mveli. Ufundo mveli or ingoca mveli. Ukugoca, remember, ukugoca is to investigate something in depth. So ingoca mveli would be the study of the origin or the ancient origin of things. Or ufundo mandulo, the study of the ancient beginnings. So you will realize that if you go into the etymology of these words, archaeology, biology, sociology, it's all very, very, very understandable concepts. It's very understandable concepts. But unfortunately, we've become so deluded that we don't think we have the capacity to decipher, these concepts in our own languages. So someone is asking, what does Kabecha mean? And then another person asked, does each nation or clan currently have historians? And what do you call a historian? I don't know if each nation have their own historians. Back in the day, yes. every clan used to have historians. Even a family would have a historian. Remember, we had particular professions, if I would call it that, like Sangoma or Ngaka, who were part historian, part doctor, part prophet, part priest. We also had praise poets, Imbongi, who were also part historian, part, singer, etc. So these are the people who used to maintain and record history. You understand? Polymaths, yes, I like that word. Polymaths, people who had knowledge across the different aspects of our culture. Now, a historian, specifically someone who deals with history, would be called usomlando. Mlando, or usombali. Mbali, remember, comes from the word ibali, a story. Ukubalisa, to tell stories. So Sombali is the chief of all storytellers. Umlando is the history of something. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your presence here. Thank you, sir. The etymology of Gqeberha. Gqeberha comes from the word Gqeib. Gqeib is a type of tree. In fact, Gqeberha is a river, by the way. Gqeberha is a river in what we call Eastern Cape. In Afrikaans, they call it Barkens River or Barkens Rivier. It is a river, Barkens River. That's the first thing. Gqeib means a tree. It's a sticky wood tree. In isiXhosa or isiZulu, this tree is known as umhlakoti or umhlakochane or inhlokolochane. It's a tree. In Afrikaans, they call this kind of tree taibosh. It's from the family called Rus, R-H-U-S. R-H-U-S, Rus crenata, Rus lancea. These are the type of trees. They tend to have these berry-like fruits, Now, these trees are abundant along the river, Barkens River. And it's not just Barkens River. There's another river in the deeper Eastern Cape. It's also called Gqeberha. It's next to the Keiskama River or Keiskama. This river is full of the Gqeib tree. So Gqeberha means full of Gqeib. Gqeberha, full of Gqeib. Someone who's full of ubutongo is called Tongocha. Someone who's full of ukunqena, someone who's lazy, is called Inqenerha. Someone who's been or beaten up, we said, when you beat up someone a lot or you like to fight a lot, we say uyanqucha. Nqu means to beat up or to fight. So nqucha is to beat up. But if you like to show animosity towards others, we say chuku, which means you are transferring your fighting to others. But when you are beating one person a lot, we say uyanqucha. So that kha at the end means abundance of something, And then ngwelecha, when someone, for example, like the Europeans who used to come with ships, when they were wrecked, we used to say bangwelechekile. Ngwelecha means to attack something or to leave something in ruins. Ngwelecha, you see. So kha means abundant or something that has happened in a huge manner, or something that's full in a place. So because the trees, Gqeib trees or type of trees, or umhlakoti, inhlakochane, are abundant next to the Barkens River, we call the Barkens River Gqeberha. Karicha, it's full of the steenbok animal. Steenbok, at least back in the day. The steenbok is called Kari in Kwe. It's called Kari, and therefore that river was called Karicha. Rivers that were full of lions or lions liked to frequent that river, those rivers would be called Gamcha, or as some people say, Gamka, because Ram is a lion. So it's very important to understand the naming conventions here. Someone asked me a very good question. How I would say electron or an atom. This one is going to be a bit of interesting. But we would have to go to the etymology, the origin of these words, right? An electron well, an electron obviously is a subatomic particle. It's a subatomic particle that has a negative charge, and it is orbiting the nucleus. But also the flow of electrons in a conductor constitutes electricity. So an electron, the word electron then means of electricity, like an element of electricity, the elemental form of electricity, the base of electricity. It's important to understand this. Ne? When you say umntu, you're literally saying of ntu. Of ntu. Just like when you say electron, you're literally saying of elect. That on at the end, that suffix, has the same effect of in the word umtu, or umu in the word umunt, or mu in the word mutu. So electron, that on there, is basically of electricity. Why is it called of electricity? Because it is the basal element of electricity. When we talk about electricity, we talk about the flow of electrons. So the word electron, it literally means of electricity. So what is electricity now? What is electricity in your language? Mutlakatso or umbane. Now, electron would be an element of that. So in my language, it would be ibane, for example, or ubane. In another language, lihlakatso, or whatever suffix we're gonna attach to that word to symbolize of this, derived of this, or say the root of this. Izubo. Well, you can also use that word as well. You can also use that word izubo. Now, when we talk about atom, remember I'm doing direct translations here. I'm doing direct translation. It's very important. Direct translation. And then it's important to start there, because a direct translation literally communicates the actual idea of the name. Then we can then take from that direct translation and use whatever name is sensible for us, as long as the original idea is not lost. What is an atom? The word atom comes from the word a, which means not, negative. It's ta, it's high, it's anger, the one that doesn't. Temnein means to cut. Atom, the one that doesn't cut, the one that's indivisible, the one that cannot be removed, the one that cannot be destroyed, the one that cannot be switched off. Basically, the most basal element. That's what atom means. Ayitimi, ayicimi, engacimi. That's what an atom is. The one that cannot be divided, that cannot be derived further. It's basically the source. That's what atom is. It is the source of whatever thing. That's the original idea. So you could say engacimi, or ayicimi, or the fundament of whatever you're talking about, the foundation. So you can translate then foundation as atom, whatever makes sense for whatever purpose you want to use. I like what this gentleman says, unqo. I like that. I like, me, with clicks, I like the word unqo, because unqo is the essence of whatever we call life. Unqo. So we can take the word unqo for atom in the languages that have clicks. Unqo, you see? Or unqu. Nqu means essence, the true self. So unqu. Now, when we say atom is the basic unit of life, they say we can then extend it as unqu bom, or unqo bom. That would be atom. But this is no, it doesn't have to be this. Whatever in your language translates the idea of indivisibility, something that cannot be divided, cannot be cut, cannot be destroyed. That is what atom is. You can derive a word from that then. Aitimi, aitimi, unqo. And then one of the comments is, now I'm thinking about the ancient Egypt with the hidden one. Atum. Yeah, Atum literally means Watima, the destroyer. Atima. If you go to the original word, it doesn't even have vowels. It's just syllables. Amaqabane. And then someone is asking me about Kamata. I actually have a video about this. I made a video a while back about Kamata and Tiko and all these words. Tiko umlenze munye. That's what Tiko means. Umdo jingayo xa ehamba. Tikwa. It's Tikwa, by the way. Oh, ijingwa. The one who has been hurt in the leg. The one who limps when he walks. Tiko means the one who limps. Ujingwa in isiXhosa. Jingwa. That's the original way to say Tiko in isiXhosa. Jingwa, because ukujingwa is to hop on one leg. It literally translates the idea tikwab, which means wounded knee, wounded leg. Tikwab, ijingwa. That's what it translates to. Oh no, wait. The word Tiko, remember, it's an alias. It's a nickname of Kwamata. It's a nickname of Kamata. Kamata, the chief father of all, the all father. Just like the Nordic people speak about Wodan, the one they named Wednesday after Wodan or Wodansdag or Wednesday. Odin is the all father. So to us, the indigenous people, Amata or Amata, the first father of all, or the first standing one, isi Magade. So it translates to the standing one of all, or the standing creator of all, or the standing father of all. It's Kamata, Amata. In the Lesotho click languages such as Khoi, they use the word Teng Akeng instead of Kamata. This is important because Tiko is the alias, or Tikwab. It's an alias of this Kamata name. Now, what does Tiko mean? Wounded leg, or the one who's leaping. Umlenze munye, umlende ngamunye, the one-legged one. It's very important to understand the one-legged God is an old concept you find not just in isiXhosa or Kwedam, Kwemana. You find it in Sotho-speaking communities, Tswana-speaking communities. You find this concept of the one-legged one, umlente ngamunye or umlenze munye, which is literally Tiko. The myth is that Khu Aumata, who represents the good Lord or the good master, had a battle back in the day with Gaunab, who represents the evil force, the evil one. The name Gaunab literally means evil. Khu Aumata means the good Lord, who's the father of all. Gaunab means the evil one. They had a battle. Khu Aumata or Amata or Teng Akeng Teng was winning. As he's crushing Gaunab, which means the evil one, as he's crushing Gaunab attacked the leg. Literally attacked the leg or the knee and wounded that knee, and therefore resulted in Khomata being a limping person walking on one leg. That's what it comes from. Hence Tikwab as an alias, or Tikwab or Chikwab, or in isiXhosa Jingwa. Jingwa is the one who's been caused to walk on one leg. That's what the word means. Because ukujinga is to walk on one leg, or ukujingela, mlenze munye, etc., etc. If you go back, even in West African mythology, you'll find this one-legged entity. As someone mentioned, in Nordic mythology, it's one-eyed. But if you go to Indian mythologies, you'll find this one-legged entity. These are ancient stories that were told. There may be some interesting finds if one goes to investigate those things. I like Ndabezita's contribution. An atom is ichwe in Zulu. An electron is inxelesi. You see, if you go deeper to realize that chwe means the one indivisible thing, which gives us in a non-click form the word ngwe for one, singularity. I once did a video talking about 1 and 2 and 3, and I mentioned twi means one, chwe means one, which is ngwe, but also nge means one, which is nye. So you could also call aton ichwe or inye or idri, which means the oneness, the only one, the indivisible. There's no other. You cannot have another unit beyond this unit. I love that idea. I love it. So these are the riches that await our people. Should our people get into the depths of our language, you understand what atomic science, you understand geography at a much deeper level now than you ever did. You realize that geomorphology, which you learned at school about rocks and all that, was not at all foreign. It was actually just a English version of what your ancestors had already preserved in language. So these things are very, very important. Now, my people, I'm going to drop. I'm going to have another live in 45 minutes, exactly 45 minutes from now. At 19:15, I'm going to be hosting a live. We'll be talking about the materia medica and the methodas medindi of the indigenous people of Southern Africa and Africa at large. Materia medica and methodas medindi. What is materia medica and methodas medindi? Materia medica is a Latin word which means the essence of medicine. Materia, material. Medica, medicine. It is the essence of medicine of our people, the body of remedial substances used in the practice of medicine. How did our people heal? I will talk about the healing through song. I will talk about healing through vibration, sound therapy. I will talk about ukombela and ukucula and ukuvuma. I will talk about ukubhula and ukuvumisa. It's very deep. I would please ask you in 45 minutes to come in and join, and also those who can contribute towards our healing practices such as ukuvuma, ukuvumisa, ukubhula, such as ukubula, ukugcaba. Our people, please come and join. I want people to come join in as guests. I want people to come and join in as guests. It's very important. It's going to be at 19:15. 19:15. You want the name for tiger. A name for tiger in our languages. Firstly, whatever name you will find, it will always have to do with scratch, the word for scratch. Ngawu, or hwe, or ngwe. The word ingwe, or hwe, or gawu, or ngawu, it comes from the root which means ukukrwela, or ukukrola, ngo, ngwe. It comes from a root word which means to scratch something. So even if tiger is not native in our land, it could still be called ingwe because it has a scratched or etched pattern in its body. But the truth is that tiger is not native to Africa at all. We would need to have interacted with tigers in ancient times to have names for tigers. I've had people discuss this and fighting that no, tiger is ingawu or ingwe. I think it's futile to fight over that. Some people say, oh no, we don't have a word for that because it's not native, which modern knowledge says it's not native to Africa. But even if it was native, it would still be called ingwe or some kind of ingwe because it's a big cat. And its shape, the shapes in its body are scratched or edged lines. Edged lines, you see. So it would be some form of ingwe. one way or another. I'll be back in 45 minutes. Tab Light, I don't think we do have a scientific portal on committee that enforces these words and terms. See you guys in 45 minutes. 1915, Materia Medica and Methodus Medindi of our people. We'll talk about the healing practices, healing methods. We'll talk about the dancing when we heal, and the out-of-body experiences that people go through, and how knowledge from deep underwater and from the stars comes and is permeated through our people in the form of song and is administered when we do healing practices. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.